QP, you hear that word a lot, you see that in the application. What does that stand for? Qualifying population. Don't get confused. What is QP? Qualifying population. It's very simple. I think my battery is gone. Okay. I'll begin to the words. Homeless definition. We're going to go by the HUD definition of homelessness and at risk of homelessness. When we say that all of these services are similar to ESG, because we're talking about the qualifying population, but still funding under one category. Your qualifying population, whether it's homeless or at risk, all falls in the same category, qualifying populations, okay? I want to make sure that's clear. So it's not like with ESG where you had homeless in a separate category than at risk of homelessness. You qualify because you meet a category, you're a qualifying population. Homelessness is defined in 4 categories. I have 3 here, and I'm going to go down some more to get the rest. Well, this category 1. Category 1 is going to be individuals and families who lack a fixed place to stay, fixed regular nighttime shelter or housing. That's going to be the ones based on the picture of someone sleeping in their tent. Based on category 1, we're looking at someone who's unsheltered homeless or sheltered homeless. This includes staying in a hotel paid for by a nonprofit, not paid for by yourself, paid for by a nonprofit. That's going to be category 1 of the homeless definition. Category 2 of the homeless definition is going to be individuals living in a public operated facility, temporary shelters type of facility, or exiting a government funded institution, coming out of jail and going to be homeless, and they entered jail as homeless. They keep that definition of homelessness for 90 days, and then they're discharged. They still are defined as homeless. Category 3 number 3 under the first category, an individual who is exiting an institution, as I mentioned, with the 90 days timeline. Category 2 of the homeless definition, an individual family who's immediately lost their primary nighttime residence. We talked about this with ESG. This is going to be an imminent risk of homelessness. You have an eviction notice. You have to leave that place in 14 days. Your family member will kick you out in 14 days, and you have a written verification from that family member that you have to leave with a time day on that. This is not someone who's calling you saying, my mama putting me out when. I don't know. They don't qualify. 14 days, you need a written verification. The individual family lack the resources and support network, so they have nowhere else to go to. And but for our assistance, that sounds familiar, but for that assistance, that's ESG, they will be going to a shelter or to a place not meant for human habitation. We also have category 4. I'm going to skip down 2 because we really don't talk much about category 3. So please forgive me. I'm going to skip to category 4. Category 4 are going to be our domestic violence category. Those who are fleeing or attempting to flee. That means if they call you tonight and they tell you that they need to go, they're attempting to flee. And at that moment, they are qualified as homeless. I want to clarify. If someone is calling you and saying that they are trying to leave a domestic violence situation, sex trafficking or anything like that, you don't ask them, okay, do you have somewhere to stay tonight? They're attempting to flee. We have a few domestic violence agencies here you can connect them to, but at that moment that they call you, they tell you they're trying to leave, they qualify as homeless based on the federal regulations. At risk of homelessness. At risk of homelessness is way more broader. We have a lot of different categories or subcategories under at risk of homelessness. But before we can even look at the subcategories that define at risk, you have to first qualify based on your income. Your household income has to be 30% of the AMI or less. And I know in some communities, especially in the Delta and some of our more impoverished communities, 30% income level, that's going to be less than minimum wage. But that's the regulation. It's not a 50%. This is not going to be one of those waivers that was adopted during COVID. It is 30% AMI. So if it's someone you're working with for HOME-ARP, looking to qualify as a QP, 30% AMI, and some other categories that I will identify. You also have to verify that you have no other support networks. No church, family, friend, cousin, uncle, no one else they can call, no money saved, and their special savings account that they don't want to touch. You verify that they have no other resources and they will become homeless but for our assistance. After you establish that they do not have the finances needed for housing and they will become homeless, they have to fall under one of these lovely categories. As I said, much more different subcategories than the homeless prevention. They can be, number one, they have moved because of economic reasons 2 or more times during the last 60 days. That's going to be sometimes our couch surfers. They're going to hop from place to place. Sometimes that's going to be people who go to one landlord, get evicted, go to the next landlord, so every 30 days. Wherever the reasons for relocating, they relocated 2 or more times during 60 days. We have to verify that timeline. B is living in a home other than themselves because of economic hardship. I'm getting some words there. Once again, our couch surfing. So it's going to be a double up situation. When I say double up, that's not you and your mama and you turn 18. That's not doubled up. You're talking about your extended family, your friends, cousin. You're only staying there because you have nowhere else to stay. And it's usually going to be people who are living in it. We talk about this too. Household size is going to be too much for the number of units or bedrooms inside that unit. Live in a hotel or motel paid for by other resources than state, federal churches and nonprofits. You're in a hotel paid for by yourself. That's going to be a lot of people in Jackson. I see it all the time, especially over there, or 55. A lot of those people will qualify for at-risk of homelessness. They get their disability income. They put a bunch down and they try to maintain. They're not literally homeless. They're at-risk of homelessness and should qualify in this category. Lives in a single room occupancy based on some type of data, 1.5. In other words, overly, I guess, too much people in the house, what you call it, not overhoused, but underhoused, right? We have the law that in the Delta, we have a law that in our rural communities, you have too much people in the unit that shouldn't be there. Especially a lot of people do that inside our Section 8 units. They might lose Section 8, but that they will qualify for housing assistance and we can help some of our family members to relocate somewhere stable. F is exiting a public funded institute, including youth facility, incarceration. And G, don't use G. I'm just going to say that. G will only be approved if we have that in our comp plan. We don't have that in our comp plan. It says otherwise lives in a housing that has the characteristics associated with instability and increased risk of homelessness. It's the state or who the PJ is ability to self-define at risk of homelessness. We do not have that in our comp plan. So if you don't qualify for at risk based on A to F, you're not going to squeeze in G. There's no room there for you. Okay. Since COVID, and I think it's because during COVID, you all saw the data, the incidence of domestic violence increased. You all saw that data, right? And a lot of times it's because people had no choice but to stay locked up in a house where they may or may not have a safe place. But because of that, HUD has put a really more defined interest in domestic violence population. We see that in all our funding now, we have to verify the clients who have a safe place to go if they experience domestic violence while in program. But that being said, they are a specific and separate category under HOME-ARP, okay? So you have homeless, at-risk, domestic violence, its own category. So we have several definitions under domestic violence. And the only thing I can do is tell you what to say. I'm not a guru on that. We do have some agencies here who've been doing a great job in that field for a long time. I do advise that you reach out to them. But domestic violence is fleeing or attempting to flee a domestic violence situation. It includes what? Dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, human trafficking, and other definitions described by HUD in the 24 CFR 5.2003. Domestic violence population includes, as I mentioned, fleeing or attempting to flee, and those who are protected by the Trafficking Victim Act of 2000. HOME-ARP eliminates the COC ESG requirement for these individuals to verify us not having no other residence or no other resources. They are their own qualifying population. So if you fall under a domestic violence category, you are a qualifying population or individual. Some of the categories includes a current or a former attempted to flee, a current or former spouse or intimate partner of the victim, a person with whom the victim shares a child in common. This may be some of the qualifying elements. A person who is cohabiting, and now they are a victim of potential violence. A person similar situation to a spouse of the victim under domestic violence laws in the jurisdiction. So wherever the domestic violence laws are inside the state of Mississippi, they will apply or qualify under that. Or any other person against an or youth victim who is protected from the Persons Act under domestic violence laws and jurisdiction. As I mentioned, I'm not a guru on that. I really don't know of domestic violence laws, but if you're going to use that as a qualifying population, get familiar with it. This includes, for under dating violence, we're looking at those who have social relationships, romantic relationships, of the intimate nature, where the existing of such relationship shall be determined based on the length of the relationship, the type of the relationship, the frequency of interactions between the persons. Sexual assault is as defined by regulation, and stalking. If someone fears that they are being stalked, or they feel that way, I do recommend that you all reach out to a DV agency. Do not dismiss their fears because stalking is not easily defined. Take it seriously and consider them for whatever resources or help you can connect them to. Human trafficking, we do have several agencies that focus specifically on human trafficking, but this is also a qualifying population. This includes sex trafficking and labor trafficking, okay? I wanna make sure talk about labor trafficking. That's something we don't hear about a lot, but if you do run into someone that's saying that they have been trafficked for labor, they can qualify for assistance under this program. Other populations. Other populations are a broad way of including other extremely low income individuals who may not naturally qualify under homeless or at risk of homeless or domestic violence criteria. However, if you want to qualify for services under other population, you must also prove that you have a risk of homelessness and you have extremely low income. We are requiring the services of housing assistance to prevent homelessness, and it's also under the other population. And we define exactly what that means in the regulation, but I also want to mention that in our HOME-ARP plan, we identify specific groups and the other population. We identified those who are coming out of incarceration, and also we identified youth. So you can be 30% AMI to qualify for that under the other population, or have an income less than or equal to 50% AMI and meet one of the 7 housing criteria under at risk of homelessness. That's the only time the 50% AMI will be considered. That's if they don't qualify as homeless, they don't qualify at risk of homelessness because their income is too high, but they have one of those criteria. They're losing their housing and they're at 50%. We do not have a category under this definition for above that for assistance. As I mentioned, our HOME-ARP plan, we have we talked about homeless youth, individuals coming out of incarceration, also veterans and families, and people who are at greater risk of homelessness due to housing burden. Program eligibility and limitation. What is limitation? Yes, Rhonda. Housing burden. So if you look in our HOME-ARP plan, we define what that means, whereas if your household extreme burden is if your household income, your rent is more than 50% of your household income, and then regular housing burden is 30% of your income going towards rent. Limitations. This is where limitations exclude certain qualifying population or subpopulation from eligibility. Some limitations include may violate fair housing and civil rights laws, so don't put limitations on your program. Limitations can make it difficult for us to meet the HOME-ARP requirements for the qualifying populations. Agencies should not impose a limitation, okay? It is necessary to address the greater gap as we serve all qualifying population. Unlike ESG, we do have limitations, we do have restrictions, and all, keyword, all qualifying populations. If you're applying for this resource, you must serve all qualifying populations. You cannot write an internal policy that says you will only serve veterans. That's not going to work. All qualifying populations must have access to your program. However, where you decide to make sure they have access, they must have access. Services at this time is going to be provided in a chronological order based on their application. There's no prioritization because there's no preference. Once again, agencies will be helped to serve all qualifying populations.
If they don't qualify and they have 1%, they can have 50% native.
And then they'll qualify, and the other.
Individual and meets one of the following conditions. So that's going to be.
So as Latoya mentioned, there are different types of qualifying population. We're going to have the homeless population, know that definition. At risk requires the and, 30% and. That's that definition. The other definition is going to be the 50% and. Yes, the different definition. Do you mind? The coordinated entry will make referrals to the program and you will accept those referrals from the program. Okay, so we will be working through a wait list. HOME-ARP requires a wait list, first come, first serve. This can be used with limitations only in certain categories. I know before I said no limitations was going to be depending on certain criteria, okay? All qualifying households that apply are placed on the wait list and they're selected in the chronological order. The CE, coordinated entry, and other agencies can refer clients to the wait list to receive services. We will be providing more policies regarding the wait list with the application. We're going to look a little bit of at HOME-ARP and COC with a qualifying population. One, HOME-ARP, as you know, we use the homeless definition. We use the at-risk homeless definition and the fleeing, attempting to flee domestic violence. But we also have that other population. That's not going to be something you see with ESG or with the COC grants. If you're looking at pairing your funds, if you already received ESG, COC, HOPWA funds, be mindful of our other population definition because they will not qualify for those other federal dollars if they meet category 4 of the HOME-ARP qualifying population definition. No, ma'am. Qualified populations is one group, regardless of the category. All right. I'm sorry. Do you mind? I can't. Okay, yes. We will send that, we will give more clarification about that, with the application. We have discussed agencies keeping their own list or a statewide list, but we'll provide more clarification about that. All right, y'all have questions? I got questions for y'all because I am a teacher at heart and I have a little trinket. Let's see if we understand our qualified population. A young woman calls seeking housing in the HOME-ARP program. She is currently living with her mom, who is not kicking her out. However, a recent separation led her pressing charges on her ex-partner for lurking around her mother's neighborhood. Does this individual qualify? Yes, they qualify. How we document that? Someone was trying to answer that question. The complaint. You publish that. When it comes to someone who's attempting to flee, and this is going to be in this situation, if someone is attempting to flee domestic violence situation, and I know my DV agency is giving information on that, but HUD do accept verbal. We HUD prefer that we search someone who is attempting to flee and feel at risk, then you deny service if something happened. We're the service to deny if something happened to her. Because we were not able to verify lurking. Right? You'd rather be safe than to be sorry. But they do have forms for self-certification and HUD do have a list of acceptable documentation to support that. A family of 5 calls for HOME-ARP assistance. The head household is the only individual working, and the total household income is about 25% AMI. The family received a 30-day notice from the landlord. However, they have not received an eviction. This is the family's 3rd time moving in the last 60 days with 2 evictions from the family, and they usually try to leave or abandon before they get the eviction on their records. Does this family qualify for HOME-ARP? Yes, they sure do. Mr. Smith is a veteran who has experienced homelessness off and on for the past 10 years. Mr. Smith's longest episode of homelessness is about 13 months. You all should know that definition, right? 13 months of homelessness, 12 months of homelessness, and he has breaks of hospitalization. Mr. Smith identifies as being disabled, but he never qualified for service-connected disability due to his discharge status. Currently, Mr. Smith has no income and no way of maintaining housing or utilities. Are you going to take this person? But he cannot pay his rent. All his life, what you're going to do? You're going to pay. This is why it's so important that y'all work with our developers, because y'all going to help everybody understand the process. We're going to take that veteran. This is a chronically homeless veteran. We're going to provide them rental assistance, utilities. So we're going to work with that landlord to help them sustain housing throughout the time of the program and also after discharge. All right, y'all. I'm going to give you a 5-minute break before we go into our next set of slides. Our next set of slides, we're going to talk about eligible costs in the program, and then we're going to go over the application itself. So please don't leave. If you plan on applying, you need to get that information.
Hey, Janice Wilder. So if you only serve homeless runaway youth under 17 and under, qualified, including trafficked youth.
You can qualify to apply, but you have to be willing to extend your services to those who may not be youth. So you have to be willing to grow your program. Hire some staff who can do external work with those who may not naturally fall in your population.
Okay, so that would include serving kids, youth
Yeah.
over the age of 17. So we would have to expand the
We'll
program.
have to expand the program, and if we have
Okay.
enough funds for you to hire some staff and expand the program.
Okay,
But you have to consider, are you willing to expand at this time?
okay. Yeah, I have to think about that. So, okay. All right, so in the case of Crossroads, now they serve women coming out of prison who stay in their shelter for 6 months. So would they qualify?
They will qualify too, but once again, they have to be willing to
Have to
pay,
expand it.
expand and take anyone who is homeless looking for services,
Right, including veterans.
including veterans, yes.
Okay, all right,
Including men, including children, yes.
okay. I don't think we would be willing to, able to go to that extent.
I
So,
was thought of partnering with someone so y'all could expand better together and do a dual application, maybe you at Crossroads, where you cover the youth side and she cover the adult side.
maybe a possibility.
We'll
Okay.
consider.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it is a no match grant.
yeah.
So I'll talk
Okay.
about that a little later.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Stipulations here. All right, y'all, again, ready to move on.
I think that was the CMC level. We've going back and forth with the CMC level right now, talking about whether or not so yes, and when. I get it, because they're working.
Just make it for love. And it's
Well, that's the, I'm fine with agency level. I think that's yes, but definitely not skinny. That's a right. Yes. There's so many.
They're still going to call it. Yes. That's like, takes me a minute. I'm not doing it. That's so, I know. Yeah. Let's get started.
Let's get started. Let's get started. We still have a lot of more information. Get your cookies. There's a lot of more material to get through. You will need to stay awake because there's a lot of reading coming up. So please eat your snacks, get some water, stay awake, stay woke. I always say it now. Can you hear me? There we go. All right, we're getting ready to get started. I think my battery's starting to die. We're getting ready to get started, everyone. We want to end early. As I mentioned, it's going to be a lot of knowledge going to be provided to you all. Get some water. You need to stay awake. Water reading. You need to pass the test at the end. And then you need to make sure that this is what you want to do. Okay? Consider afford to work with all those people you're trying to work with. Now, say that enough home or support services and teamwork was built to work with developers and developing housing and become available so afterward become grants. We'll talk more about that later. That is all right, now let's get into now who we can serve. We need to look at how we can serve them. Support services. In a nutshell, the support services of HOME is the McKinney-Vento support services regulations. And we'll read the McKinney-Vento Act. You know, you deserve a prize. You read it. I didn't read it. God, that's summary. It is. It's a lot of information. But this is what that's what it is. The support services identified in the HOME is the support services. I got oven in here. Stacy, catch. Too short. But the support services identified in the HUD Act. It's also the state support services identified in emergency shelter, ESG, homeless prevention, and rapid housing, ESG. So you actually are familiar with these services. The McKinney-Vento Act gives a little more detail on each activity. For one, cost of childcare. Keep in mind, we're not paying for a client to send their child to daycare. Don't be confused. I was at one point. You have your agency actually help the child care facility was part of the certified child protection agencies, but that is for the cost of that child care that your agency provides. You're not paying for child care tuition. I'm sorry, that's not allowed. Education services. This is one of my favorite components. This one in the job training. But when necessary for the program participant to obtain and maintain housing, the costs in improving knowledge and basic education skills are eligible. We're talking about GED, English as a second language, literacy. A lot of our homeless people, especially our adults, cannot read. We take it for granted that they could, and we push documents in their face and we wonder why they ain't pull it out. Did you ask them if they needed help? They won't volunteer and say that they can't read. We actually need to take some cues, but we can help them improve that. We can help them get connected to classes that hopefully help them with their literacy, writing, reading, and get into a better education system. Health education, that's you know, that probably came from the COVID language, but it's still here today. Health education and consumer education. The entire QP. So let me clarify. all these services I'm listing, anyone in those qualifying populations that we just went over, they qualify for all of this. Now, we did not win the lottery in the state of Mississippi. Everybody don't need all these services. Be really strategic when you do your service plan. If they need that to gain stable housing, then provide it. If they, okay? And also when you provide your budget, you don't have to check every box that we offer. What can your agency actually provide? If you say you will provide it and you check that box, guess who'll be looking for it to happen? Don't come later and say, I thought I could provide it. You're gonna provide it. Don't just check. Look at what it's requiring of you. If you don't want to do it, it won't hurt my feelings at all. If you can partner with an agency that can do it well, I think we have some GED programs that are free in the state of Mississippi. If you can partner with an agency that has a program doing it, do that thing. Work better. You have someone with GED, send them to the, I think they do it better. It's still everything. Second chance, their programs don't, but in application, we talk about partnership and we use the collaboration. Employment and job training. You will see this on the application because I definitely highlighted that section. We want clients to come off this program with gainful employment or disability or whatever type of income that they can get to sustain housing. You might have to train them. That's okay. You can charge it to the grant. So we can pay for a classroom, online computer instruction, on-the-job instruction, services to help with employment search, acquiring learning skills to increase earning potential costs, stipends to go to job trainings and get certifications. Additional training costs we can do is learning skills included, those needed related to job training, employment screening, structured job skills for job seekers, special training, tutoring, things like that, books, counseling, job coaching. Wherever you need to get a job, we can do it. Now, we're not sending you to Jackson State. No, we're not. We're not sending you to Hines, but we're trying to help you get the skills needed for some type of employment. Think of also like you have a client that has some skills doing hair. They did it for free or this time, you know they can make money off of that. In the state of Mississippi, you can't make money if you don't have a license. You can get them trained and pay for the license to the employment program. And now she has like $400 coming in a week doing hair, and she can pay her own rent. This type of stuff you would like to see coming through the programs. We can provide meals. This includes meals for eligible households, food packages, things like that. This does not include you giving cash to the client to buy food. We don't do that. Housing search support. It's going to be our housing search and placement case manager for those who have ESG, HOPWA, COC, SSBS funds, our housing navigator person. They're going to be the ones that help reduce those housing barriers. If you're working with the most vulnerable populations, the ones who qualify for this program, 95% of them don't know how to talk to the landlord. Don't make them do it. You're going to hurt them. Your case manager, your housing search person should be doing that, being a liaison between client and the landlord, also being there to help problems, to help navigate that. They're going to help them find a unit. A lot of our clients don't have transportation. I'm going to plug in for our transportation group in the back in a few minutes, but you will be the person going out and looking at the units. You will be the person helping take them to some of the units. They're not going to walk the 5 units and look at it. You'll have to actually do some of that work on the ground for them, like we do for our homeless programs. Mediation, credit counseling, and other related costs. Credit counseling is what it says, counseling. We're not paying for bad credit to be repaired. Legal services. Legal services can be a wide range of things. We're looking at anything that's preventing that person from being stably housed. child support garnishments, and that's a big deal in Mississippi. Maybe it's every state, but I've seen a lot of that in Mississippi where they can't afford housing due to child support garnishments, so legal services to help them get that leveled out or get paid up or caught up, whatever they need to do. We can't pay for your back child support, but we can pay for the legal services that you may need to help with that process. Orders of protection, if that needs to be happening with our domestic violence agencies, I think one of our agencies asked about legal services before for domestic violence. I don't see them in the house, but we can pay for legal services related to domestic violence. Appeal of veterans and public benefits. That's also a big thing. No one gets approved for disability on the first or the second round. And if you're homeless, you don't know what to do after that. The legal services can help with that appeal process and landlord-tenant matters. This was big during COVID because so many people went through wrongful eviction or just eviction and they didn't know what to do. So this can help with that process. But before you start putting money in legal services, remember we do have some legal entities out there that provide some of the services for free. So figure out who that is in your community. I know Mississippi Center for Justice is a big one. They serve on the coast and in Jackson. But there's a lot of other legal entities out there that does free work. We want to tap into the free stuff first and then into the grant resources. It's a great question. So first, I want you to look at your ESG regulations. It's the same one from McCain-Vento, and that's what you're going to go by. We can pay for the hourly rate for legal services. So essentially, yes, staff costs, but that lawyer must be registered in the state that you're receiving services in. It cannot be a Louisiana lawyer, it can be a Mississippi lawyer that are receiving those services. And it has to be related to something that can help them sustain housing. Life management skills, the cost of teaching critical life management skills that may never have been learned before. When I used to work in the field and housing some of our chronically homeless individuals, you'll be surprised when you will think everybody knows that they don't know. Don't take it for granted, especially if you're taking someone from unsheltered homeless or long-term sheltered homeless. This is an eligible option, so train them how to set my thermostat on auto or off. You will cut your light bill in half. Turn off the stove when I walk away from it. You know, locking the doors because I'm not outside anymore and someone might break in and hurt me. Things like that is important. We cannot take it for granted. How to cook a meal. How much time we drop off cans of food and some plates and they looking like, what to do with that? Take a moment. You can charge it to the front. So provide some nice skills training. How to manage money. When I first got my very first check, I remember this. My very first check went on crap. I didn't do nothing. I splurged it. Money management. Don't expect they know I need to pay my rent first. That was not the first thing on my mind. I need to pay my tuition. So what am I gonna do? To the mall and I bought so much clothes. Don't take it for granted. People might just, especially if you come from a trauma and you have money, you have money alone, you don't want to spend on your stuff. So take a time. Hey, you spend $100 on your stuff and let's put the rest of this in savings and all that. So let's make sure we provide those skills. Shopping, don't take it for granted, y'all. Parenting. We have some families who are homeless, living homeless, and we're trying to work with reunification of the household. Don't take it for granted. Provide the training that they need. Mental health services, eligible costs are direct outpatient treatment. So in other words, we have a lot of community mental health centers around the state. We also have some other private outpatient services. We can help pay for those costs. We cannot pay for you to go inpatient. I think Dominic, that's not eligible cost, but we can do outpatient. We can help with that. We also can help with crisis intervention if that's the service track. I think in the state of Mississippi, that's free. So use the free options. Counseling, individual, family, and group therapy sessions is outpatient, so you can definitely provide those services. And then medication, that's a big deal for homeless individuals and not at-risk homeless individuals.
So, if there might be available services that are free, but it might take a long time to get them. So I know that you might be seeing it in high behavioral health quickly, but you might not actually be able to meet with a therapist for 2 months. So can you use for mental health or whatever, something that speeds that process up, but you have to try free before you go someone else?
But it's always that thought process of her trying to be first. Now, during an emergency situation, this is a life or death. If you don't or she don't receive that mental health intervention, you are afraid for their safety and someone else's safety. Go ahead and pay for that and charge it to the grant if it's outpatient. You also might consider how can you get that person inpatient. So if it's an emergency, we will definitely consider that as possible. However, whenever possible, we want to try to use the free options first. And actually, I don't think our outpatient services are free. I think it's like a $22 charge for a lot of our community mental health centers. Okay. Other outpatient services include outreach services. Sorry, this is a big difference than ESG because this is not street outreach. It just says outreach. Notice the word street was removed. But the cost to engage in qualified populations. This is not just the ones on the street. Anyone that qualifies and the QP qualifying populations that we went over, engaging and reaching out to them, doing, whatever services you need to make sure they know about accessing the program, it qualify. This includes outreach worker, transportation, cell phones, and things that they need to perform those services. And then we have other associated costs that might be available. Any questions? All right, keep on moving. Substance abuse treatment. Outpatient again. You cannot pay for detox, and then the state of Mississippi that I'm aware of do not have a detox center. So it is outpatient only. Eligible substance abuse service designed to prevent, reduce, eliminate, or deter relapses. Program participant intakes is qualified outpatient treatment, group counseling, and drug testing. That's the specific areas that's qualified under the service. If your client needs detox services, one, I advise that you don't attempt to do it, right? You figure out where's the detox center you can connect that person to, and then do that. And then you can also wrap this around after that detox to maintain sobriety. Transportation. Public transportation vehicle providing support services can be used. You're talking about support service for medical care, employment, child care, transportation to access the services that we identify can be provided. We're looking at public transportation, but we also provide mileage for your gas reimbursement. If you have an agency vehicle, then you pay for gas for that, insurance and tax, and maintenance of that vehicle. In the house today, we have MDOT, Mississippi Department of Transportation. Dr. Hudson, you don't mind raising your hand, stand up real quick? There's MDOT. They have transportation grants. And they do federal to federal match as needed. Federal to federal match. Even though this program is non-match, think of it for your other programs. Dr. Hudson will be the one that you reach out to. We will allow him to provide more information in the future as we move this program forward, but work with other federal programs out there, provide the resources that is needed. Kathy. Yes, it is eligible. But first you must see that, because there's a lot of areas around here that's not public transportation. So the language says taxi, you know, back in the day when we had taxis, so now we all do Lyft and Uber. So that is allowable cost if they're using those Lyft or Ubers to get to those identified support services. Any other questions? Outpatient health services. Outpatient health services are eligible for treatment for any type of medical conditions. They have to be provided by a licensed medical professional. Providing things like health screening, treatment, medications follow-up, things like that that's needed to help them feel better, dental care. This is going to be a type of service that you provide a lot of times to our long-term homeless individuals who need those type of resources, right? If we have clients that have insurance, we want to tap into the insurance first. I cannot say that enough. Now, I don't want people to start thinking in their minds, so I'm going to make sure I mention it here. It's good to provide all those services internally. I understand that, but I want you all to partner out. Be mindful of conflict of interest. All because my husband is a doctor, that doesn't mean he needs to be my physician for my clients. The conflict of interest. Or because my sister knows how to train people how to drive trucks, that don't mean she is my employment person. That's a conflict of interest. As we plan your program, think of partnerships that can be made, right? And be mindful of conflicts of interest. Housing costs. I'm getting into rental assistance and things like that. It falls under support services, but it is the same type of rental assistance that was provided under the ESG program. We can pay for rental application fees, security deposit, utility payment up to 24 months. Now, that's only going to be allowed for utility. When we talk about rent, it's going to be a little different there. Moving costs, moving trucks, things like that. Eligible housing costs includes rent payment arrears, a one-time payment for up to 6 months. Sound familiar? The cost of homeless prevention services. You have to qualify under that category of homeless prevention or under the other population who might qualify under homeless prevention receive those services. Here's where it gets different. We had to make this change. So we are defining short-term assistance as up to 3 months. That's the same. But we were defining medium-term assistance as more than 3 months, but at a max of 6 months. We are not providing rental assistance for up to 24 months. And I'll talk about the reason why, because we have TBRA. Okay? We're not going to use support services to pay all the rent, and then TBRA is left in the dark. And we use up all our support services early. We have tenant-based rental assistance. That's a separate allocation of funds that you have to identify on your application, okay? And we'll talk as we go through that. So assistance can be provided at a max of 6 months, but not to exceed 24 months in 3 years. We have people that get kicked out and come back in. They can do that, but no more 24 months in 3 years, but no more than 6 months at a time. We want you all to graduate them from the support service program to your TBRA program with the landlord and then do housing stability. They're not going to get stuck on support services.
You said TBRA was eligible.
All programs.
Yeah.
It's transition. So, yeah, so an agency that applies for TBRA has to apply for support services. We're not doing just TBRA. You can do TBRA support services. They're in the kind of qualified program. You could pay their deposit, transition them into your TBRA voucher, hopefully into the park. Okay, program costs and administrative overhead, just like with ESG and HOPWA and our other federal programs, going to be charged directly to that particular program or activity. All right, let's talk about TBRA, tenant-based rental assistance. Eligible costs. Under TBRA, HOME-ARP funds may be used to pay up to 100% of the cost based on household income. We'll talk a little bit about that later. A sub-recipient may use HOME-ARP TIBRA funds to provide loans or grants to qualified household recipients for security deposit. That's difficult, so don't do that. Just pay their security deposit out of supportive services and transition them into TIBRA, okay? I should take out that language, I forgot. Okay. What's going to be difficult is the tracking mechanism of that, whereas you're going to grant a client your deposit amount, then how are you going to determine the rules of that grant to that client? We're not going to do that. It's eligible under supportive services, and we're going to charge supportive services for deposits and moving costs for clients who want to access TIBRA. We good with that? Good. Okay. Okay, terms of rental assistance contract. When we do the contract with TIBRA, we're looking at 12 months contract at a time. It can be renewed every 12 months, but it cannot pass September 30, 2023. This will allow agencies to determine if the client doesn't need any more services after a certain amount of time. So it's renewed every 12 months. You can renew it every 12 months, but it cannot pass 2030 because why? Why is 2030 a magic date? What's happening then? It all ends, and guess who can't pay your reimbursement for anything past 2030? MAC, oh yeah, I definitely want to prove it. MAC ain't got it. It won't happen. So if you're doing TIBRA contracts, we're doing it 12 months, look at that time frame. You're not going to be enrolling new clients on August 1st of 2030, because that doesn't make sense. All right. Maximum subsidy. We're going to set it as 30% of the household income. So 30% of the household income going to be used towards the rent. If they have zero income, we can pay 100% of their rent. I want you to use the CPD calculation on HUD's website. It's easy to fill in and to calculate how much their rent should be. Termination. HOME-ARP's subrecipient may not refuse to renew a sublease to qualifying applicants. You can't refuse it. This is why we do 12 months, because that 12 months is expired anyway, or you can renew it. But this, unless they violate one of the reasons that's identified. So,
or is it that
opposite of way around? I'll reword that. Opposite of way around. 30% of the household income contribute toward the rent. Other way around. I will definitely reword that. I appreciate you looking catching that. Okay, so in regards to termination, there are certain conditions around that. We can't terminate TIBRA, however, if the unit has been vacant for 60 days. You have to be checking on your clients. You cannot continue to pay for a vacant unit if it's past 60 days. If you have someone that's going into inpatient treatment or some type of specialty care, and it's going to take longer than 60 days, they will lose that TIBRA voucher. So TIBRA is transferable. You transfer it, as you know, to any landlord that's willing to accept it. If the client cannot find a landlord that's willing to accept their voucher, I don't have a remedy for that. We do have a lack of housing, but this is why we want you to partner with developers. They are going to take your clients, so they require their HOME-ARP. So when you're having problems, just give us a few months or maybe a year or two to get that property developed. It might be in your community, and our client can go into those properties. Hope you didn't catch that, but you did catch that. I know, I'm gonna bypass that, but yes, they do allow for subleasing, even though it's not allowed for ESG. In that context, I'm talking as what it says, subleasing, renting a room out of a unit that might be provided from another client. They do allow, we will only use that if we cannot identify housing in a community. We'll use that as last resort. HUD has allowed or opened up more grants for subleasing after COVID due to a lack of available housing. Okay, sorry about that. You a little closer. Subleasing is allowed. It has been something. Okay, if y'all don't mind, we do have want to decrease the charge a little bit so people can hear. If y'all don't mind, thank you. That's not much better. Subleasing is allowed. This is something that HUD started because of the lack of available housing. It's literally, as it says, a unit for a tenant and a room sublease due to no housing in that community. We use that on a very limited basis. There's no other option, and the person will have to stay on the streets otherwise. But be careful with subleasing, because a lot of people don't get along. You will say, this is a good partnership. I'm not scared this person sublease, and then be careful by the police. You don't want that either. All right, so let's go over a few scenarios and then we'll get right into the application. An agency provides housing assistance to individuals and families that meet the qualifying population. As part of support services, they also provide each homeless family with a $200 gift card to Walmart. Can this cost be charged? Yeah. Not at all, not to each family. What you mean by that? Who said each family? Who said that? Not to, no one. No one get a cash card, not today, not tomorrow, not anytime during the grant. And this is, nope, because cards is considered cash. Cards are considered cash. We can't get cash. We can go to Walmart and purchase food and purchase groceries. But how do y'all know that cash is going to Walmart to buy a substance? We don't know, so we don't do it. Here's the regulations. Sorry. An agency was informed that many households that are living, a word wrong, but anyway, households at their local housing authority were losing their subsidy due to not paying their rent on time. The agency decided to partner directly with the local housing authority to help subsidize these rents. Is this allowable? Sheets. You cheated. No. Double dipping is not happening, y'all. And we got so much calls during the ESG. I know once this roll up, we get a lot of calls. If someone has Section 8 and they can't pay their portion of the rent, they need to go back to Section 8 and readjust their rent amounts. We cannot pay that. That we probably did, and that's probably why we got a lot of calls, but we are not allowed, it's not allowed with the federal programs. All right, an eligible household maxed out their total amount of rental assistance available through supportive services. So we said what, 6 months, right? But the household still has no income and is unable to maintain housing. What should we do? TBRA, move them over to TBRA. Not discharge them, but move them over to TBRA. And if you decide not to apply for TBRA assistance, I'm sure someone close by you will apply. Refer them to that agency for a transfer, not go back on the regular, for a transfer to continue services to another program. All right, any questions before we move into the application? So we know who we serving, right? Who we serving? Who are we serving? Qualifying population. Give me one qualifying population. One. Domestic violence, that's one. Give me number one. Hotel, let's pay for that. Anyone? But what? Yeah, and yeah. That's what we started on. We knew when we started, what services can we provide? We can do what? Education, medical, okay. Still a lot of them. We can support, I don't think, the NPR. But you don't get it to the home. Doing what together, get clients, stably housed, free, employed, and self-sustainable on in housing.
Last down here, the service that those that $100 can pay you back.
Provision of childcare at your agency. We're not paying for a voucher. We're paying for childcare at that agency. That's right. All right, let's pull up the application. Now you will be mad because I did not, as I said, intentionally printed out the application. Why? Because I want y'all to pay attention to me as I go through it. You should be mad. You won't be looking down, you'll be looking up. We do have some caps when it comes to the funding. You do know, if you don't, look at our plan. We have certain amounts that we set aside in every category. For support services, we set aside 5.7 million. Support services annual award amount, we will not be providing no more than 952,000 annually because it needs to last us all the way up until 2030. TBRA, we set aside 7.7 million. We're looking at about 1.2 million annually. I swear, I thought that was a bill. That was anyway 1.2 million annually for those services. As I said, because it has to last until 2030. Funding limits on your application should be between 75,000 and 300,000 for support services. For TBRA, we're looking at applications between 100,000 and 500,000. One also, even though you don't have your handout, yes, it is in the book. So you could find it in the book. Page 5, thank you. However, it's important to note that the caps do not ensure or it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get what you asked for. You may get less depending on how much agencies apply. But don't worry, our application cycle is actually pretty easy. HOME-ARP, TBRA support services application is going to be one time. How much times? So if you fall asleep and you missed the deadline, guess who missed it? You missed that, though, it's gone. One time. We're gonna do application one time. You're gonna get annual renewal every year. Annual renewal every year, unless we don't meet our spending goals. We're not gonna drag this money out. We're not gonna request an extension past September 30th, 2030. So we have some stipulations there. If you don't spend up to 60% of your grant during that first year, you're on probation. And you may not get funded by it. You'll get funded the second year to redeem yourself, but now you probably get 60, you get a lot more to spend now. But by the third year, if you don't get caught up in spending, you will not be refunded for. That's it. We will work with agencies that can spend on time and meet our spending goals. You receive a grant renewal every year up until 2029. Who knows why? Because it ends in 2030. That's what makes sure y'all know. Good. It ends in 2030. Expenditures deadline will be August 31st, 2030, because it ends September 30th, 2030. Give us 30 days to get some things processed. Sending in your reimbursement on August 31st, 2030 without supporting documents do not count. We have 30 days to get the reimbursement to you. So if you wait until September 20th to get it, the supporting documents, you're costing the state not to spend on time. Expenditure deadline, August 31st. Get your request for cash in on time so we can close out the grant and we can celebrate together for meeting our spending deadlines. I talked about not meeting spending goals. So if you don't meet spending goals, this is going to happen. Agencies not meeting the expenditure goal by the end of 2027. So maybe you were doing good the first couple of years. And then by 2026, you slow down. 2027, and you haven't made it down to about 60, 70% of your grant. You're not going to get a contract in 2028 because we need that money spent. So stay on top of your spending goals and meeting those targets for us. Recapture of funds, case by case basis, it do happen. And we are not afraid to get our money back. Please meet your deadlines. And we won't have to get it back if we want it spent. All right, let's go to the application. This is not in your packet. So now you have to look up. This is actually screenshots from the application. This is what you will see as you open it up. The application will be on our website on February. Who knows the date? February what? Y'all been reading. It's February 15th. Don't go home and email me tonight and say, where's the application? It is not there. It's not February 15th. It will be posted on our website on February 15th. Not before. And not after, and it will be open until April 1st, okay? I will be sending you all these slides. I just didn't want y'all to look down while I was talking today, but y'all will have these slides so y'all could go through and get more comfortable with the application. So it is 100-point total calculation. The minimum point we're going by is 75. So yes, it's a very hard application to pass. You're gonna have to get 75 points or more to get funded. We have 21 tabs. So if you completed 19, just don't send it because it ain't complete. Make sure you complete all of your tabs. We do have some tabs that don't require information. They're just for you to gain information. We have a racial equality for equity tab. All of the resources used by HUD is required to be provided regardless of race, creed, gender, nationality, and any of those protected classes. You can't do it. You have to serve everybody, and you have to serve everybody fairly and equally. We have a table of contents. The application must be submitted according to the table of contents. Keep all attachments in order, including the title page. Keep it in order. Sometimes you send something, but if you didn't put it in order, I'm calling you. Why you send this? Tomorrow it's on page 10. That was in the order. Follow the order. So I don't have to call you. Follow the order for the requirements for the attachments. If you apply for ESG, you notice it's the same information. I try to keep it simple. Threshold requirements. Before you even start the application, read this. If you feel that you may not meet the threshold requirements, but you still want to apply, we're not going to waive the threshold requirements, but you can call me and we can talk through what your concerns are, and we can see if you meet it or you don't meet it, okay? But this is our threshold requirements. The biggest thing is you have to be a 501c3. You need to be in SAM, have a UEI number, be in good standing with the state of Mississippi, have a board, and some type of policies and procedures for that and for staffing. Simple things, but I need it. Application information. Along with just the general information, you must identify which COC you're connected to. If you're not familiar with the COCs, they were here earlier. I still think, are they in the house? We get Dr. Whitman on the coast is here. And I'm not sure if anyone from Jackson Central COC, they were here earlier, but this is the coverage area. Contact your COC if you're not engaged with them, get to know them. But this is the coverage area. We just need to know, what COC you're connected to. It also asks at the very top, I see a small print, if you have experience with the HOPWA or the ESG grants, because it'll help us understand the ability to interpret the regulations. Yes, did I say it's a twin system with different personality? That's what it is. So it will help us understand your capacity if you have some type of experience to build off. Eligibility, you are an eligible agency based on these criteria, don't you go down and select yes all the way down. Because some of them require no answer. And if you select yes in error, you just messed up. So read it, okay? All right, let's get to the points. The program, plan, and narrative, 30 points. In the application, points will be given to agencies who have a well-developed plan for providing services and transitioning an applicant to housing stability and self-sustainability. This is your agency plan, okay? Or your plan for the program. This is not an individual client plan, but just like how you expect that program to work in their community. I would like to hear about all the services you plan to work with. Preferably not your internal. I love Superman, but he is not real. We can't do it by ourselves. You need each other. I want to see some MOUs out there, and you have to have a connection with who? Or what? A developer. CLC is great, but a developer, we talked about that earlier. This program is meant to work with the development side. So don't forget that as you come up with your plans. You can talk about your program plan in the program description section and the project information. This is how it looks. I said that you have to have a connection with the developer. Now, no. Let me clarify. What that means. We have some developers who never did supported services. At our conference, we talked about this last year. We joked around with speed dating. We don't know who those developers are as yet. You have to be willing to put some of your resources there. That's all we're trying to say. You can't say that I choose not to work with a developer once they're identified. You have to use some of those vouchers. If a developer calls you, say, HOME-ARP units, and they're calling you for a client and for services, you have to work with them. That's a requirement. You can't decide if there's a developer in your community. I do understand that when it comes to, once it becomes available, these support services and team are required to work with the developer once they become online. So put it in your narrative. I want to hear about your plan. It might not even be developing your community. We understand that. It's not enough money that every county get a unit. But talk about your plans so when this do come available. I want to know that you're willing to do this. Oh, willing to work with you. Not existing in my youth. We do have some really eager people out there who ready to help with that. Don't know who you are. If you have so what I'm saying, I need to know that you are willing to do that. You can know turn away once you stand up to do. You have to work with them. Stand up to you want to feel those things. Well, I can do that, right? Okay, so I think that was easy to guess, right? So we're talking about home development agencies. Once they are home development agencies, we are not looking at this. We are there probably until 2026, maybe 30, somewhere in the years of future, somewhere in the distant future, but not too distant. When that contract comes out, we know those developers. You get your funding for that 2026 cycle. You have to be able to take those people vouchers that you have something in you. If they are required to house these clients, they don't help to get the money. Okay. I was going to get more information about that. The unit, the opportunity chapter has transition to still seeking for housing units. The rental housing just have to stay for rental housing for debt able 2-3 years, but for 27 a longer training and boards, I don't know. They can talk on whatever. All right, so this is how that section will look. Even I said here 30 points, but it's gonna be breaked off into several areas. 10 points will be here. When you provide your plan of your program, also identifying your desire to work with developers if and when they become online in your community. No, it's not a character. I only because I don't know. Because y'all will be stuck on my 200 words. But that being said, not a dissertation, not enough information for me to know what's happening. No thesis, you don't want to. I don't want to have to copy and paste. I have to put it somewhere else because it's so long. Let's don't do that. My teacher once said that Winston Churchill wrote his wife a 12-page letter during World War II. He ended it with, "I'm sorry, but I just didn't have time to write a short letter." It's because, and my teacher was explaining, it's because when you are rushed, you tend to just put everything in there. Takes a long time to work on this, put something that makes sense, and simple to read and not too long in your program description. Okay, project information, support services. You don't have to select all, but it's identify all support services that I went over earlier. Select the ones you plan to provide. If you select it, you're going to do it. No takesy backsies. You're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, don't select it. Project information, this part here, we're looking at 20 points. So the first one is 10 points. We have 2 pages on this part, 10 points each. Describe your experience with the qualifying population. Your experience working with homeless, non-homeless, at-risk, DV, wherever your experience is, provide that there. The number of times you might have served in the past, that's your past number. Your employment efforts, the willingness to partner with agencies like MDOT and other agencies who wants to hire our clients. Describe community coordination efforts. How does the community coordination help improve services? As I said, I want to see some MOUs. Who are you working with in your community to provide these services? Does your program lead to permanent, stable housing discharge? And it can be discharged to TBRA, but what's your plans to ensure this person can keep housing? Our second program information page also worked 10 points for a total of 20. Identify methods to recruit landlords. You'll get max points if you have existing partnerships with developers or tax credit properties. And yes, that can happen because we do have some agencies that are already partnering with our tax credit developers. They exist now, low income housing. If you're working with them and you have an easy call to, let us know about those partnerships. What are your case management and discharge practices? If you have a case management policy, a best practice that you use, talk about that. Describe how services will connect through HOME-ARP programs. Will you partner with HOME-ARP rental developers to provide supportive services for TBRA? We just had a long discussion about that, so talk about it in the application. The TBRA form, you don't get no extra points with this one because if you do TBRA, you have to do support services, okay? But if you plan on doing TBRA, you have to fill this section up. If you don't fill this section, then don't even ask for money in TBRA because you're not going to get it. Complete the section, complete the TBRA tab only, as I mentioned for that. And then you also have to complete the TBRA budget. The questions are similar to supportive services, but it just identify TBRA. So if you're doing both, make sure your language is specific for supportive services and then specific for TBRA, okay? Reporting, 5 points. If you did this service before, you have some type of reporting requirements, system that you use, database that you use. Just tell us about it. If you use HMIS, if you use some other data collection system, as you do your CAPA reports each year or whatever experience you have in reporting, I want to hear about that to know that you know you have the capability of collecting the data. Reporting ability, 5 points, section E. I said we can take, or you can talk about HMIS or other reporting systems that you use. If you're using a system other than HMIS or other than the DV system that we are familiar with, then you need to tell us how that's going to be HIPAA compliant. That doesn't mean we're gonna accept it. We just wanna need to know how you're gonna ensure that this information be kept confidential. Now, if you don't have a reporting system, but you're looking at working with this program, talk about your willingness to engage in HMIS or other reporting entities that's allowable. Need analysis, the same that we had in the ESG application. So our COCs will begin contact, I'm sure. We need to know the gaps in your agencies. I don't expect the need analysis to be any different than the one you submitted in the last year for ESG. So if you use the same data, I'm okay with that. But if you haven't submitted one before, make sure you do this. We're looking for the areas that you cover. I don't want to know the gaps in the state. I already know that. If you're only covering 2 or 3 counties, I need to know the gaps in your community that you're going to be covering. Program goals. The program goals are going to be a numerical goal, not your qualitative data or your description of all the wonderful things you're going to do. We actually have to document this in numbers. So how much households you plan to serve with our programs. Our budget. The budget is broken up into 2 parts, a total of 15 points. Agencies are marked on their financial controls and feasibility to manage HOME-ARP program. You can complete that on this first section, financial controls. We're going to ask you about the percent of staff that you plan to have paid out of the grant versus the amount of funds you're requesting. This is also something that's taken off the ESG application. We need to know your financial controls based on the number of funds you are moving in through your community. All HUD program is a reimbursable grant. Every dollar you are asked, something like match. If you're going to ask for a lot of money, you need to be able to show that you can manage a lot of money. How much funds you have coming into your agency. We will not be able to assist all the time if you ask for more than you can control. Okay, what am I saying? I'm saying that I need to know, or we need to know at the state level, that if you ask for 200,000, you can support 200,000 because you have internal controls. We have zero match for this. We do have zero match because things happen. You might have something wrong on your request for cash and you might not get it for 30 days. That doesn't mean your clients should be evicted because you have some other money coming in somewhere that you can make sure your clients are safe. Okay? These pages talk. So once you complete the project budget, it will automatically transfer over to the budget summary page. You don't have to fill out that page. Reasonable and appropriate budget. Last year, I added this new tab on our ESG application, and you have it again now. If you click on support services, it will take you to a breakdown of eligible costs, and you need to tell us the quality expenditures. Also for the 10-based rental assistance. And this must match. So if you put your total expenses is 200,000, that needs to match what you asked for up here. So don't say that you're gonna have 300,000 and your expenses 200,000, something didn't add up. Don't put here that your staff cost is 50%, and then when I go here, your staff costs add up to 70%. It didn't add up. So you need to make sure things are lined up. When you click on those tabs, it will break up into these sections. Support services, every support services that I went over is identified here. So let me know what you're going to spend on that, including case management and housing services. TBRA, you don't do much there, but provide rental assistance. So that's breaked out there per quarter. And then you have the home go back. Once you press the go back tab, that will take you back to this page. Okay. We're almost done, y'all. Once you finish those 2 pages, all that information, as I mentioned, talks to this page here, the budget summary. The budget summary will automatically be completed if you completed those other budget pages appropriately. The only section you will have to complete is going to be your cash on hand. Cash on hand needs to be completed there if you have any at your agency. All right, 15 points. That's a lot of points. Listen to that. Indirect will be charged. I know you're gonna bring it up on us. I started to add that, I'm like, but I don't know if I want to. It's gonna be included with each of your items. It's not, in the regulation, it's not gonna be budgeted separately, so when you do your total budget, include it with that. Yeah. I knew you were gonna be the one to bring that up, but it is allowable with this grant. And that's fine, I'm glad you asked. It is allowable with this grant, but it'll be with the specific category. Capacity and experience, we got a whole 15 points on that. So tell us what your experience is for providing services to the qualifying population. We only have enough space, I think, for one key staff, but if you can add more space or more fields to add more staff to talk about those experience. This form must be signed. Finally, you're certifying that the information you provide in this application is accurate and true, and you will carry it out to the best of your ability. So like I'm running for president or something, right? But you're gonna carry it out to the best of your ability and serving those. You're gonna sign off on that, and that will complete your application. You can say you did it. You'll feel happy, and then you'll call me and say, tomorrow you have time to read over this. I'll say, I will try, but I can't. Even if I read over your application, I'll let you know this ahead of time. I can't tell you if you'll be funded or not. We put all our applications in a grading system. We look at the points of it. We look at your financial controls. We look at some other things that we calculate like a system and then writes it. If you make it to 75 points or above, it might say based on your funding amount. If you score less than 75 points, then it will automatically exclude you for the recommendation on the process. No, we do not have a self-scoring tool, but you can feel free to develop one and score it yourself. The problem is the self-scoring tool. No, I score myself, I get 100%. And I know all the people, some who think they're gonna pay. So we won't even have that conversation. Okay? No, I'm not the only one. Latoya, she's gonna be working with HOME-ARP as the part of service. And honestly, we have a team of people. Y'all met Lisa, but on my team, y'all met everyone here. Anyone that works on our team in the ESG or the program, it's between one of us can provide assistance with it. If I'm not able to answer your questions, the HOME-ARP, Latoya will be able to answer some questions. Prepare with us. Why? Was HOME-ARP here last year?
No,
So are we experts?
no.
Thank you. Sometimes I want to send it. Sometimes you're asking a question, I want to send it to the HUD to get more clarification. So I can't see right. HUD will take anywhere from 15 to 40 days. I can do it. But they will answer to me when they can't make it value. But some questions I can still write that I need more guys. Did we have it not? We didn't have it on there? Oh, okay. Executive directors allow the application for the board director. Any other questions? Yes, you can. You can apply for support services without applying to people, that's fine. But you're not gonna give resident assistance past that 6 months time, just remember that. Because remember that will depend on how you need to structure your services very rigid to ensure that people are discharged with disability. If you can do support services without people, but people will need that support services thing. Good question. Have you noticed on the people budget, ain't nothing there to rent. So people are going to do rent, you help to provide people support services back together. The case now can come to support services. Yes. The 6 months cap is only for rental assistance. That's it. Transfer of the utility assistance is even by the utility assistance. Exactly. We'll recommend us only. Some people don't need people. You might get in it's a great job for 6 months of assistance. But some people need longer term. That's correct. That's what we do for budget. It's hard to predict how 2029 is going to be prepared. Even if you're selected for the full funding, you don't have to get, you submit a budget each year. That's what we have to do. And you might not get what you have to get, but you have to submit a budget. And you have to do what? What makes you, what do you have to do to qualify for renewal of your application? Spend your money. How much do you have to spend? Just a percentage. 50%. If you spend 59, any grace for you?
No.
No grace for you, I'm sorry. I go round. Thank you all so much. I look forward to seeing all your application and makes look forward to working with you all in the future. And please look at our other products that we have available on our website. This information is, this webinar is recorded. It will be posted on line. If you are here and you put your email address, if you read it, we say it again. If you put your email address, you read what you wrote down, you will get the stuff. If I can't read, you will not get it. Sorry about that, but that's what's going to happen. Thank you all so much. Have a safe trip back to your destinations.